Hello, book lovers, and welcome to Book Talk Radio Club. My name is Claire Perkins, and today I'm talking to award-winning author Val Penny. Val is the author of Edinburgh-based crime novels featuring D.I. Hunter Wilson, one anthology titled Dark Scotland, and one non-fiction book, Let's Get Published. Hi Val, welcome, and thank you for coming to talk to me on Book Talk Radio Club.
Well, thank you very much for having me, Claire. I'm delighted to come and talk to your listeners, and I hope they'll have something interesting to hear from us.
Let's talk about your crime novels first, shall we? You're from America, and yet you're writing books set in Edinburgh, Scotland. Not that you shouldn't, of course, but why Edinburgh?
I lived in Edinburgh for a very long time. My mother was Scottish and my father was American, and the family dived across the Atlantic when I was growing up. And when I was choosing a place to set my novels, I originally thought of making a place up the way that Peter Robinson has for his D.I. Banks novels, because his East Vale is everywhere and nowhere in Yorkshire.
Mm-hmm.
But I lived in Edinburgh, and it's a city I know well. It's also quite a small city, so my characters can get from one place to another quite quickly. And Edinburgh is also a city that people tend to know. Americans, Canadians, Australians, New Zealanders, Europeans, and even British people have visited Edinburgh or have a family interest there. So I decided not to go to the trouble of making somewhere up, just use Edinburgh.
D.I. Hunter Wilson, is he Scottish or American? What kind of character is he?
Hunter is definitely Scottish. He is Edinburgh born and bred. His father was a church minister in the city, and Hunter is a loyal, determined man. He has a strong sense of fairness. He's a good team player, and he leads his police team strongly. He's also the linchpin for his darts team, although he usually turns up late for matches.
Did you base his character on another fictional D.I.?
No, not at all. All my characters derive from my own overactive imagination, and Hunter is another of those.
Have you found that as you write each of the Hunter Wilson books that he becomes more of a rounded character, or did he start off that way with book one, Hunter's Chase?
No, I think all the characters actually become more rounded as the series goes on. Because although I had done backstories for each of my main characters, they get put into different situations, and I learn more about them as the series progresses.
Tell me about the first book in the series then, Hunter's Chase.
I began writing Hunter's Chase when I was recovering from breast cancer. So it took me about 2.5 years to write, partly because I didn't know what I was doing, and partly because I was ill. And it's the novel that introduces Hunter and his team to the world. And in this book, Hunter discovers that there's a new supply of cocaine flooding into Edinburgh, and he needs to find the source. But then his attention is diverted because a corpse is discovered in the grounds of a golf course, and then he witnesses a second murder, and there's a young woman's life left hanging in the balance. So Hunter needs all his perseverance and patience to put these problems to rest and to keep Edinburgh safe.
Your second book, Hunter's Revenge, sees D.I. Hunter Wilson called to the scene of a murder, only to find the victim is his friend and colleague George Reinbold, who had just that morning taken delivery of a book worth £23,000. It sounds like the beginning of a good story. Can you give Book Talk Radio Club's listeners a brief synopsis of books 3 and 4, please?
Yes, I'd be happy to do that, Claire. The third book in the series, Hunter's Force, is set in spring of 2013. That was the time when the former regional police forces in Scotland, there were 8 of them, they were united to form one police force, Police Scotland.
Yeah.
And in this book, Hunter is woken up in the early hours of the morning by a call from his son. The son's flatmate has been murdered, and it seems very strange to Hunter because she's a young woman only recently arrived in the city. But because of the reorganisation of the police force, he has to call in the major incident team, the MIT, to lead the investigation. And so you have the force of Hunter himself, but also Hunter's force being the newly formed police force. Now, in the fourth novel, Hunter's Blood, it's actually Hunter's family that's attacked. Of course, he never has just one problem to solve. 3 elderly women that he knows die in mysterious circumstances, and Hunter appears to be the only link. And a little girl goes missing on a cold winter's night. So he needs to find out why the women died and what the child witnessed, and he needs to do that to ensure that both his family and his city are kept safe.
The most recently published book in the series is titled Hunter's Secret and was published August of last year. Hunter is called to the scene of a murder, but when he gets there, the body's gone. Tell us more, without giving too much away, of course.
Yes, in that 5th book in the series, the reader really finds out more about Hunter's past, and also gets a chance to look into his future, because Hunter has a secret, and the reader needs to follow him to see whether his past unravels in front of him, or whether he can keep everybody safe and keep the secret that he has all to himself.
So there are a series of books, but do people have to read them in a particular order to enjoy them, or can they be read as standalones?
No, you're right. They can be read as standalones, Claire. All my books have been written as part of a series. The series is the Edinburgh Crime Mysteries. But I write them in such a way that they work well as standalone novels. Because, if you're in an airport or waiting for a train, the last thing you need is to have to worry about whether you've got the right first novel.
True, very true. I'm the kind of person that has to know exactly what order things go in so I can make sure that I'm reading the right book. So that's good to know. Definitely good to know. So who is the target audience for your crime novels, would you say?
Well, surprisingly, the readers who most often buy crime novels are women. Women who've probably never been anywhere near a violent act. And so I think I'm writing for nicely brought up ladies who enjoy a bit of crime on the side.
Let's,
Surely in a fictional sense, of course.
of course, of course. Let's now go on to the Dark Scotland anthology. Tales of ghosts, ghouls, mysteries, and madness, of which you contributed a short story. Is that also a crime story or something in a completely different genre?
Well, my story, Cats and Dogs, is a crime story, but there are many other dark genre represented horror and ghost stories amongst them. The most important thing I think about this book is that it is a charity anthology, and so all the money goes to the Halliburton Foundation for the homeless, and also to ME Research up in Scotland. And well done to the publishers for getting so many excellent best-selling authors on board to donate stories to this anthology.
That's such a worthwhile cause. I mean, they're both very worthwhile causes.
Absolutely, yes.
Let's talk a bit about you then. You're an American author living in southwest Scotland. Whereabouts in America did you live and how come you ended up in Scotland?
Well, I was born in California. I went to high school in Colorado. I studied in New York. I worked in Virginia.
Good.
And then I fell off the end and married a Scot. I came over here to study, married a Scot, and stayed put. But you know, this is such a beautiful country with fantastic people. Who wouldn't want to stay?
Fair enough. Most authors have a day job when they have to climb out of the skin of their characters and exist in, as it were, the real world. What's your day job, Val?
I took early retirement after I was diagnosed with breast cancer. So now writing is my day job. I write, I teach writing, I lecture about writing, I blog about writing. That's my job.
Lovely. You're very lucky.
Yes, I'm very lucky.
You are. You have great reviews for your books, including a fast-paced, superbly crafted murder mystery series and a riveting ride and an absolute treat for fans of crime novels. Also, another fabulous story from the talented Miss Penny. Her storytelling seems effortless. Val, are you motivated to write from the reviews you receive or from the sales of the books?
Probably neither, Claire.
Oh.
I'll tell you why. Reviews are wonderful, and they are the lifeblood of authors. We do love them. However, I don't think you can be motivated to write by reviews or even by book sales. The characters drive the stories, and I just love telling stories. I always have. So it's the storytelling that does it for me, nothing else.
Are there any more D.I. Hunter Wilson stories on the horizon?
Yes, indeed. The 6th book in the Edinburgh Crime Mysteries series, Hunter's Rules, that'll be out by the end of this year.
Okay.
But before that, the first book in a new series. This is breaking news. Nobody knows this, so
you heard it here first.
I'm writing a new series centering on Detective Sergeant Bain Rennick, who works in the Major Incident Team, and her partner, Detective Sergeant Rachel Anderson. So the new series will center on the two female detectives rather than Hunter's team.
Oh, right. I have to ask you as an added question, why crime series? What is it about crime series you like writing about as opposed to any other genre?
I think it's because that's the genre I like to read most. I do read other genre. I enjoy women's fiction, and who doesn't like a little bit of romance from time to time? But the genre I read most consistently is crime, and that's why I decided in the first instance to write a crime novel.
Yeah, fair enough. So lastly, where can Book Talk Radio listeners purchase the Hunter series and of course your other books?
All my books are easily available from online on Amazon and also bookstores, Barnes and Noble. So I hope if anybody's interested, they'll have a look, and I hope they'll enjoy the stories.
Well, I know my mum is, because she's already read 2 of your books, and I sat down to tell her who I was interviewing.
Oh, that's lovely to hear. How
Yes,
nice. What's your mum's name?
Evelyn.
Evelyn. Well, send Evelyn my love, and I'm so glad she enjoys the books.
I will do, thank you.
Tell her to have a look out for Jane Rennick in a couple of months.
I will do, and so will I. All right, well, thank you, Val. Please come back on Book Talk Radio Club again. I'd love to chat with you and hear how you're getting on. In the meantime, good luck for the future, and thank you, everyone, for listening to Book Talk Radio Club. Thanks very much, Val.
Thank you very much for having me, and good night, everyone.
My pleasure.